In this video, I want to show you a garage door opener that's pretty different. Boring! No, this one's not boring at all. Yeah, right. What are you possibly going to say that's at all interesting about a garage door opener? Well, for starters, this one is not mounted above the center of the garage door like most other openers. This leaves that space available for all kinds of other things like additional garage lighting or extra storage. Huh. Okay, well that is interesting, but how does it lift up the door then? It's mounted off to the side, just above the door roller tracks. Rather than having a chain or a belt that travels, the motor itself actually travels up and down its own track, pulling the door along with it as it goes. It's also incredibly quiet, it features a soft open and close, and it's relatively easy to install yourself. Wait, you installed this thing yourself? Yes, I did, and in this video I'm going to show all the details of how to install this opener. Now some quick background first. This opener is called the Evo Plus. It's made in Germany by Sommer and is one of their more popular models. I picked this one up from doorparts.com, who helped answer a bunch of my questions as I went through the install process. I'll leave a link down below if you want to learn more. Now, let's get into this installation process. You want to lend me a hand? Oh, actually no, sorry, there's a hockey game on inside and it's not going to watch itself. I'm out. Typical. Let's get started. Installation starts by creating a bracket to mount the front end of the door rail. This was necessary for my install as my door has this large ratcheting spring mechanism already mounted above the door where the included rail end would normally be installed. You may not need to install a bracket like this. It totally depends on how your door is currently set up. But for my door, this bracket just moves the end mount location out from the wall a little bit. Next, I assembled a rail. This comes in 3 sections which slot together tightly with some substantial overlap at the joints using some outer sleeves. With the rail sections assembled, I stretched out the drive chain in both directions down the interior of the rail. Then I could connect the electronics unit at the far end by sliding it into the rail. This has a small slot to accept the end of a chain. Rotate the end of the chain by 90 degrees, insert it into the slot, and then rotate it back. This will lock it into the bracket. The bracket at the other end of the rail also slides right into place, and then again lock the chain into the bracket by rotating it 90 degrees, sliding it into the bracket, and rotating it back. With this black bracket installed in the end of the rail and the chain inserted into its bracket over here, we're now ready to add tension to this. You do this with a 1/2 inch deep well socket, which I've already got put on the end here, just on a regular ratchet. And what we're looking for is right inside this window. There's a small little arrow. I've painted mine green so it's a little bit easier to see. And that arrow points to a certain section of that window. As you tighten this bracket here is going to be pulled this direction, and the bolt that you're tightening is going to be pulled this direction as it squeezes a spring that's inside here. What we're looking for is to see the end of your socket, which is where the head of the bolt ends, to come right in line with that green arrow. Okay, right about there, the end of the bolt is just in line with that green arrow, so this is now tensioned. With the chain tensioned, now it's time to assemble the plastic mounting bracket for the far end of the rail. This bracket is just a little bit of a puzzle to assemble. It comes in 2 halves that slot into each other, along with some bolts that slot through and lock everything tight. Note that you'll need to insert the bolts into their holes before you slide the 2 halves together, and don't forget to use the small black spacers at the ends of the bolts to force everything together. To the ends of these I attached the included L brackets, which will then mount to the new ceiling bracket that I need to build next. This bracket has to be mounted between 4 and 28 inches from the end of the rail with the electronics module. So I measured to find where that distance range would fall on my ceiling joist pattern and located a ceiling joist that fell within that area. I built this triangle bracket out of some 1 1/4 inch slotted angle bracket that I picked up at my local hardware store. I made sure to leave some extra vertical length to match the height from the ceiling of the rail at the other end of the door, so the rail would wind up being mounted level with the ceiling. I was also careful to make sure this formed a 90-degree angle so the track would hang straight in line with the garage door track and not skew off to one side or the other. When I tried to mount it, I realized there was a little trimming required to allow it to sit flush against the ceiling. While that was easy to take care of with an angle grinder, a hacksaw would have worked fine as well. I eyeballed getting it in line with the existing track bracketry and mounted it to the ceiling joist with some lag bolts. Before hanging the rail, I opted to install the optional lighting accessory on the electronics unit. To do this, make sure the unit is unplugged and then remove the cover. It's held on with a Phillips screw at the far end and just hooks in at the front end. There's a small receptacle on the circuit board where the lighting accessory plugs in. Route the wiring through the small hole in the cover and hook that end of the light into the cover. Feed the Phillips screw through the far end of the light and then plug the light into the circuit board and reinstall the cover. Now I was ready to install the track. I lifted it up and rested it on top of the existing door track. Then I just loosely put one bolt through the bracket at the end. This was only there temporarily to keep it from falling while I repositioned myself to permanently install the other end of the track. That end is connected with this small pivot rod that includes some locking clips which will hold it in place. With the front end connected, I went back to the other end and removed the loose bolt that I'd installed so that I could reposition the track to be level, and then I permanently installed the bolt at the top and the bottom of the mounting bracket. I double checked and tightened up all the mounting hardware in use up to this point, and the track is now installed and looks great. Now that we've got it up, it's time to attach the opener carriage here to the door, but to do that we have to free it. Right now it is locked in place. So you pull this, which will release it and allow it to slide. Slide it all the way to the front. The side mount kit comes with a variety of hardware, and this assembly is one small part of it. This clevis is used to connect the side mount bracket to the carriage. To do so, you slide the small spacer into the slot on the carriage and then feed the bolt through. Thread the clevis onto the bolt, but leave it loose for now. We'll tighten it up later. Feed the side mount bracket into place and then add the pivot pin and lock that in place with the round clips. The side mount bracket is now installed on the carriage, but as you can see, my door has some unique features that make installing the side mount bracket a little bit challenging. This is the bracket that comes from Sommer that's intended to be mounted flush on the top of your garage door. Now unfortunately, as you can see, I don't have any garage door to speak of above this top strut right here, and I can't mount it down below because the roller pins are in the way, and I can't mount it below the roller pins because then the arm that is attached to the opener runs into the roller pins and into the top strut. So I reached out to Sommer and asked them what do they recommend, since I can't really install this bracket with my door configured this way. And they recommended actually taking the bracket and installing it on top of this top strut this way. So I'm going to drill completely through the top strut in the 4 bolt hole locations that you can see there at the very top, and we'll go completely through and bolt this to the top of the strut, and that'll be plenty strong to serve as the anchor point for the opener. Since this is pretty unique to my specific door, I won't go into a lot of detail here, but I basically marked and drilled 4 holes and then installed 4 bolts with lock washers and nuts that pass completely through this top rail to lock the bracket in place. This is a very strong connection and will work fine for lifting this single width door. If you're also installing this on a door with something of a non-standard setup, I recommend reaching out to Sommer for advice on exactly how to install things for your specific situation. They were very responsive and helpful. With that bracket mounted, the final customization I decided to do was to cut one of the pieces of bracketry that comes with the door that's intended to be used if you're going to center mount your opener from the ceiling. Now I'm not doing that, so I wasn't going to use this piece, and by cutting it, now I have a little bit of an extension I can install between the motor carriage and the side mount bracket. Without this, the carriage just barely stops short and would not quite reach the side mount bracket. With this bracket installed though, I have plenty of room and the operator's going to work fine. Alright, with all of the hardware finagling shenanigans finished here to get the trolley connected to the top of my door, now I'm going to try and open the door by hand, very slowly, just to make sure nothing is catching or binding or running into something that it shouldn't. And this looks like it's going to be perfect. Here's another view of how that bracket looks in the fully open position, and notice how it moves so smoothly along the track as I manually close the door. The final bit of assembly was to install this stop limit into the track, and as you watch me struggle with this very stiff component to get it shoved in there with a pry tool, I'm just going to mention that you probably should install this before you put the rail together. In fact, I went back and double checked the instructions, and that's what they recommend, but they do also say that if you forget, like I did, it's perfectly fine to wedge it in there with a pry tool like I'm doing now. And now it's time to wire the control unit with various things that it needs. Now luckily when this home was built, the builder went ahead and pre-wired this bay for an opener, even though an opener was not installed when the house was built. And I've traced this wiring and verified the one I've marked with a yellow dab of paint goes to the opener location right next to the door into the house. The green one goes to one of the obstacle sensors, and the one I did not mark goes to the other obstacle sensor. So knowing that now, I can go into this control panel and connect these wires where they need to go. I removed the cover and disconnected the light kit so that I could place the cover out of the way. Then, following the instructions, I connected up the wires for the wall opener as well as the 2 obstacle sensors. These feature push connectors that are easy to use, but they do require quite a bit of force to open wide enough in order to allow the doubled up wires from the sensors to fit. Once the connections were finished and secure, I routed the wiring out the back of the case and reinstalled the cover. Then I moved to the wall location where the switch would be installed. The wiring left exposed by the builder was not quite long enough to mount this opener switch where I wanted it next to the existing one for the other bay. So I notched the other side of the switch case to allow a route for the wire that was just long enough. With the switch wired, I then installed the mounting screws and, following the instructions, permanently mounted the switch. The last part of the installation was to wire up the obstacle sensors at the bottom of the door opening. The instructions are really clear about how to mount these. Just attach the bracket to the wall, then use this wing nut and bolt to mount the sensor to the bracket. Note that the bracket with the red dot should be placed on the side of the door that is less likely to receive full sunlight, as that can interfere with the sensors. Also, as I mentioned, my house was pre-wired with sensor wires, though the builder routed them incorrectly. Let me show you what I mean. Now, you would think that this wire here is the one that I need to connect to because the house was pre-wired, but no. Whoever wired it mixed these up. This one actually goes to the other door, and when they installed that garage door opener, they couldn't figure out which wire to use, so they ran another one for the sensor that's just out of the view of the camera. This wire over here that's marked with the green is actually the one that I traced to the ceiling. So this is the one we're going to connect this lead to. Connecting the wiring for both of these sensors is really easy. Just strip back a bit of both sides of the connection and then twist the wires together and use some wire nuts to finish the connections. I'm only showing how I installed one side because the other side is done exactly the same way. Initially, I mounted these sensors vertically, but they're supposed to be mounted less than 6 inches off the ground, and this mounting position resulted in them being a little too high. To solve this, I simply inverted them in their brackets, and now they are installed at the proper height. The final thing I'll mention about these obstacle sensors is that after you've powered on the door for the first time, which I'll show here in just a moment, you'll be able to tell if these sensors can see each other. One of them has a red LED and the other has a green LED that stays lit continuously when they can see each other. These LEDs will either blink or turn off entirely if there's ever an obstacle or if the sensors are misaligned and can't see each other. Alright, moment of truth time. I think I'm ready to plug this thing into power. I've double checked to make sure the sensors are plugged into the correct place on the control board and that the wall button is also plugged in and ready to go. So I think everything's ready. I'm going to plug it in for the first time and see what it does. When you first power on the operator, the light will flash on the drive motor end. Make sure the trolley is engaged by pulling the disconnect string to toggle between disengaged and engaged, and then press the button on the wall to open the door for the first time. The first time it opens, the door will move quite slowly to the open position where it senses the stop limit switch that was previously installed in the track. Then it will close very slowly, again sensing where the door hits the fully closed position. Then it will open and close one more time a little faster. Then it will open only halfway and then close again. Then it will open fully and stop. This whole process is completely normal. It's just the initial self-calibration of the opener. Once that's complete, you can program remotes if needed. Okay, I'm going to show you how to program remotes. This is the motor carriage that travels back and forth on the rail, and we're going to push right here on the back side of the case, and there's a little release tab that you push on there that lets you pull this cover off. And with the cover pulled down, you can just let it dangle on the release cable here. With the cover off, you'll see that there is a radio button right here, and there are 4 little LEDs that light up for channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I happen to have 2 different remote controls here. These are the Pearl remotes. One of them is the one that actually came with this opener already paired to it, but the other one has not been programmed yet. So in the order to show you everything, I'm going to go ahead and deprogram both of them, and then I'll program both of them to this opener so that I have 2 remotes that I can use for opening and closing this door. So to deprogram them, if you press the radio button once, you can see the first LED lights up, and then every time you press it, it goes to another one, channels 1, 2, 3, 4. To deprogram these, I need to press and hold the button for the channel I want to deprogram, and I'm going to be using channel 1 for everything here, but all of these instructions apply for all of the other channels. You have to hold it for 15 seconds in order to get it into the deprogramming mode. And once it starts to flash like that, I'm going to pick my first remote control and I'll press the button there, And this has now been deprogrammed. Now I'm going to do this process again. We'll hold this for 15 seconds. Wait for that to flash. And once that starts flashing, we'll press the button number 1 on the remote that I wish to deprogram. And now that one's been deprogrammed as well. I think the first one I tried had already been deprogrammed. So now neither of these will open this opener. Now to program them is much, much faster. Press the button to illuminate the channel you want to program, and then press the corresponding button on the remote you want to use. And you can see it blinks a few times to let you know this has been paired. Now I'm going to press this button again, and I'll press again button 1, and this one has been paired. So now I can open and close the opener with both of these remote controls. Let me put this cover back on and we'll test it. This just pops right back in place pretty easily. It snaps right in, just like that. We'll try this opener to see if we can make it start closing, and there it goes. And then we'll try this opener to see if we can open it the rest of the way. Both of them work, so I've successfully deprogrammed and reprogrammed my Sommer Pearl remotes for this opener. Well, that's about going to do it for this one. You know, I really do love this opener, and if you're looking for something similar for your home with a unique side mount, this one is one I really highly recommend. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video, you can let me know about that with a thumbs up down below, and if you've got any comments, suggestions, or questions about things that I could do to improve in the future, tell me about that down in the comments section. And if you are interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always think about subscribing, but there's never any pressure from me, of course. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Arrow is really hard to see, so I'm going to go ahead and put a mark in my green paint pen that's going to splotch all over and make it impossible to see. Great. Ow. Does that thing like to stay? Nope, it wants to fall very, very much. Yep, that'll do.